In a reining competition, you go in, it's just you and the horse and the judges. I think about one of the best rides I ever had. On a large, fast circle, we're really laying down some speed. Every stride, I could feel my horse slipping just a little bit. That meant if we go just a little bit faster, we're gonna fall. You're going right up to the edge. You're pushing the boundaries. You're not letting something stop you. You go as far as you can go. The first person with cystic fibrosis that I saw was when I was doing my pediatric rotation as a medical student. And we saw this little girl, beautiful little girl, coughing. And it was the first time I heard the old European folklore, "Woe to the child which when kissed tastes salty. They are bewitched and soon must die." That made a big impression on me. I began to appreciate what that meant to have cystic fibrosis. It means this little girl was going to be struggling all the time. One pneumonia after the other, coughing, air hunger, coughing up blood, repeated hospitalizations, IVs. She was not going to have a normal life. And then ultimately her lungs were going to be destroyed and she wouldn't be able to breathe anymore. And she would die.
People with CF suffer from chronic and recurrent lung infections. Their airways are plugged with mucus and inflammatory material. And over time, this destroys the lungs and ultimately leads to respiratory failure and death if a lung transplant is not done.
When I started, what we knew about cystic fibrosis in retrospect was pretty limited. We knew that they had salty sweat, and we knew that in the lungs, they had repeated infections. One infection after the other. You never could clear them. I got interested in that because of the observation about the sweat glands. In the sweat glands, you have high chloride. So pretend that this is a cell. And this little plastic thing holding it together, that holds the cells together. So now it's a sheet, but it's a huge sheet. It goes all the way around the airway. This would be the top, the air would be here, and this would be the tissue, the blood over on this side. And this epithelium, or this sheet of cells, moves salt back and forth across. In the lung, it moves chloride from the blood side out into the airway lumen, and that's important. And that's important for the lung to do its job of defending itself. It clears out bacteria. And we figured out that in CF, there was a problem with chloride moving across, chloride secreting from the blood side into the lumen of the lung. That gene is a set of instructions to make something. It makes a protein. And that was important because it said, now we have something that allows chloride to move through, and it suddenly tied together what we knew before the gene and what after.
The only way you can fix something is if you know what's wrong. And I think his work and his group's work really understood and learned about what was abnormal in CF. And once you knew what was abnormal, you could then begin to figure out how to correct it.
And what that did was just ignite the field. It ignited drug companies, it ignited academics, and it said, it's going to be possible. That then allowed us to put together a roadmap. Here's the problem, here's what we need to target, here's how we can do it. We will be successful if we try hard enough to get there. That roadmap has guided the field ever since.
His discoveries, I think, single-handedly have had a huge impact on cystic fibrosis. I think without the work he has done, we wouldn't be where we are. In caring for people with CF, these new drugs that we have are game changers.
I think it's really important for people to understand that these new advances, these new therapies, these new cures, they come from work, come from hard work, sometimes years of work, running into barriers, running into obstacles, being wrong, correcting, going forward.
We haven't gotten to the point where we can have cystic fibrosis be cured with gene therapy, but we are maybe 1,000 times farther ahead to where we were 25 years ago. When I became a pulmonologist, most of the patients with cystic fibrosis were children. Over the last 25 years, the number of patients that are adults has exceeded the number of people who are children, in part because they live longer. You see him, you see his work ethic, his creativity, his sense of urgency, his ability to create teams, and you want to emulate him. He's not really a teacher and he's not really a mentor. He's an exemplar.
In my career with Howard Hughes Medical Institute, I've worked with a lot of brilliant scientists. Mike is unique. Mike is unique, not just his intellect and his drive and incredible energy, but also in the way he treats people. He's full of joie de vivre. He absolutely loves life. It's infectious.
He's incredibly down to earth. You may see him walking downtown in a pair of Wranglers and tennis shoes and a knit polo shirt, maybe with a pair of cowboy boots on. I think he's extremely humble. But that being said, he's an incredible physician scientist.
It's not work for him. It's his mission. It's what he was meant to do.
There's always more. What's the next thing? What are the most important questions that we can answer that'll carry us forward? There's always more questions. 90% of the people with CF have a highly effective treatment. Their lives are changed. That leaves 10% who don't have a treatment. So that's one of the main areas on which we're focusing now.
I came 29 years ago to do my fellowship in pulmonary critical care, and I came here because I wanted to work with Dr. Welsh and try to develop gene therapy for cystic fibrosis.
Many people don't know he's actually also an accomplished neuroscientist. And one other area of his lab right now that is really going full steam ahead is he's working in Parkinson's disease. I don't think he has what I would call scientific boundaries. And so he's not afraid, he's going to go wherever the science takes him.
Mike likes to win. In the riding and the horse riding competitions, it was that he wanted to be the best he could be. In his professional life, he always wants to do more.
I also like to, as much as I can, encourage an attitude of fearlessness. Maybe we're not as smart as somebody else, but we know what the problem is, and by God, we're going to get after it. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way. Maybe we'll go around it. Maybe we'll go through it, but we're going to get there.